We have breaking news here. I'm pulling from Wario64, who tweets out about how Hideo Kojima has signed with the talent agency WME, and he talks about what's next. There's a Variety article that goes into it, but reading from just Wario's tweet, after video games, second phase of Kojima Productions are different forms of media. Movies, anime, TV dramas, etc. Basically expanding game IP to other media. Quote, I created Kojima Productions under the scope of digital entertainment, but I don't think it necessarily has to be a video game. We could create a new IP from a game or an anime or a film or something totally different. Anything is possible, and that's the third phase. For the third phase, I would like to work with talented people from around the world and create something new, with digital being the key word. Could be a movie, a game, or something else entirely. I can't die until then. I don't think I'm trying to do anything too out of the ordinary. So there you have it. Kojima kind of, he's putting the flag down. He's saying, hey, I'm gonna break into other forms of entertainment, which I think this is always bound to be the case.
Yeah, not surprised at all.
Yeah. I'm excited for it though. Right. There's another tweet here that follows up with Wario64 where he says, it's another Kojima quote, and it says, quote, Barrett, if you're looking for it, he quote tweeted it on his profile. Quote, there are several Death Stranding adaptation projects currently underway, but there is a different story I've written that's intended for a movie, but I don't have the time to direct it, so I won't. Which is kind of like a test for the third phase. I'm in the second phase now and expanding the IP I made in all sorts of directions, but my other project, Fizzant, is like the gateway into the third phase, which is very interesting. I'm trying to make it with people in filmmaking and industries outside of games. So we may do a movie adaptation at the same time, but we will see. The assets are digital and can be used either way. End quote. Paris, what do you think about that? Fizzant being the test for the third phase.
I mean, I think it's exciting. I mean, as you were talking about that, and again, I apologize to kind of change the subject slightly.
Go for it.
But as you were saying this about Kojima, and I'm just thinking about him, I don't think he'll ever take an established franchise and do anything with it. But you know what I would love to see him do? I think it is right up his alley. Mm-hmm. Something in the Dune universe. I think he would be phenomenal doing something like that. A game that mixes in live action, doesn't obviously have to follow in the current timeline. Maybe it's a prequel or something, or far into the future. But I think Kojima would be fantastic in the Dune universe. And to just bring this all the way back, the way he's been able to evolve himself is obviously he just started out making games, and now he's working with a lot of people in Hollywood, these big time actors, and he's bringing them into his games. And now, like what he's doing with Jordan Peele, he's then taking the game aspects and then bringing that back into the movie side of it too. He's just, I said it during the Game Awards when he announced all this stuff, and who would have ever thought 20 years ago Kojima would be able to have the cachet that he does now across multiple industries? It's incredible what he does. And look, I'll never forgive him for Metal Gear Solid 2. I will never forgive him for that.
What do you mean never forgive him?
It was such a good game.
What Metal Gear Solid 2 do to you?
The okie doke. I wanted to play Snake.
Okay, well, you got MGS3, which I know isn't the same Snake.
I never played it.
Oh, okay, Perry, you can't complain.
I've talked about this on Xcast in the past. I'm waiting until this comes out now, and the new one, and I'm going to play it then. I've never played it. I was so mad after 2. I was like, I'm never playing
Metal Gear Solid 2, you know?
No.
Yeah, well, you didn't like Pliskin in Metal Gear Solid 2? That's also an insane thing to say, that you're like, oh man, they took Snake away from me, and then a game with Snake comes out, and you're like, I'm not playing it because I'm so mad about 2.
Yep, I was. I was like, I'm playing Grand Theft Auto 3.
I cannot wait for you to play 3. 3 is one of my favorite games of all time. To play it.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Like, a lot of people have told me that. So now that the remake's coming out, I might as well just wait and play it then.
Yeah.
This episode's brought to you by Shady Rays. Get ready for the season ahead with quality shades built to last. Our friends over at Shady Rays have you covered with premium polarized shades that won't break the bank. Shady Rays is an independent sunglasses company that offers an unrivaled product that's just as good as any expensive pair that we've worn. durable frames, and world-class optics for all outdoor adventures. With an extensive array of styles and colors, you're bound to find the perfect pair of Shady Rays sunglasses. Y'all know I've been outside a lot in the sun playing some Pokemon Go, and it's such a great experience wearing my Shady Rays when I'm out and about looking dope. Every pair of sunglasses is backed by lost or broken replacements. If you lose or break your pair, even on day one, they told us they will send you a brand new pair, no questions asked. Exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal. Head to shadyrays.com and use code KINDAFUNNY for 50% off 2 or more pairs of shades. You can try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. shadyrays.com, use code KINDAFUNNY for 50% off 2 or more pairs of shades. This episode is brought to you by Hims. Guys, sometimes intimate moments happen spontaneously, and we'll always want to be ready so we can perform in the bedroom. Hims has treatments that can help you stay hard and last longer, giving you that boost of confidence so you can be ready whenever the mood strikes. Hims is changing men's healthcare by providing access to affordable sexual health treatments, all from the comfort of your couch. No insurance is needed. Pay one low price for your treatments, online visits, ongoing shipments, and provider messaging. Start your free online visit today at hims.com/kindafunny. That's HIMS.com/kindafunny for your personalized ED treatment options. hims.com/kindafunny. The products mentioned are chewable compounded products, which are not approved by or verified for safety or effectiveness by the FDA. Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions, details, and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
Paris, you said so many interesting things I want to get into, because you talk about, who would have thought 20 years ago that Kojima would have the cachet that he has now. And I think the more impressive thing, because 20 years ago, right? Like 20 years ago, we had gotten MGS 1, 2, and I believe 3 came out in 2004 or 5.
He did Zone of Enders around that time too, I think.
He did Zone of the Enders around that time. But I think we had seen so much of, God, I'm gonna sound like such a fanboy of Kojima, but allow me to sound like a fanboy, right? We saw so much of the genius of Hideo Kojima around that time, but I think what's become more impressive about it is the consistency and the level of willingness to push the boundary, because you saw Metal Gear Solid 4 come out, and Metal Gear Solid 4 still felt like it was pushing things forward, cinematic presentation, long-ass fucking cutscenes, an end game feeling finale to like a bit to this franchise that's like seen multiple games, right? Like Metal Gear Solid 4 pushed it, but then we got MGS5, right? And MGS5, again, I think pushed things as well. Death Stranding, PT, like he's continued to have ideas that have felt fresh and different, but still very impressive, whether you vibe with it or not, because I know so many people don't vibe with Death Stranding. But I think whether you vibe with it or not, you can still look at it and go, oh, I appreciate what he's doing with this, though. Like, I appreciate the ways in which he's trying to innovate or do something fresh or do something different with, Death Stranding mechanically, or even if you want to point to the narrative and be like, hey man, like some dumbass names in this game, but you look at it and you're like, man, that's cinema right there. Like he's doing something with this. I think that, him continuing to go that direction of pushing that shit forward is what is the more impressive thing to me here. And I come back to this idea of what he's doing with Fizzent and what he's doing with this third phase and the way that he announced Fizzent and how it's like, being developed. I forget the exact context of it, but he showed off like the Hollywood studio thing in where Fizzent's being worked on, right? And I think him wanting to expand and explore different types of media isn't new to him or new period, but I'm excited for him to dive even deeper into those ideas. Because I go back to, there's a game, I believe it was called Defiance, that came out like years and years ago. It was like PS3 era, that tried to do like the mixing video games with TV and having that back and forth kind of relationship between the two. And it came out and I'm like, it fell flat, right? I don't hear anybody even utter the word Defiance anymore. And I think we see those ideas pop up. We see even Netflix, right? They did like Black Mirror Bandersnatch, and I remember watching that and being like, man, this feels like it was made by somebody who's just never played a Telltale game or has never played a Quantic Dream game. Like this is just choose your own adventure. We've seen choose your own adventure before. We've seen the ways in which video games can be cinematic or different or weird or cool in terms of what you do with that. There's a game Immortality that like me and Greg love and so many people love that won awards at the Game Awards a few years ago. And for me, that is an example of something that is leaning into that combination of what you can do with combining mediums in a really cool and a really forward way. We've seen this stuff before. I think Kojima has the passion, sure, but he also has the access and budget and connections and respect from his peers that I think if anybody is going to try and go this direction of going all the way in on it and be successful with it, I think it is Kojima. And I'm actually very excited. Whether it ends up being something that's totally weird and maybe even not my vibe, I'm very excited for him to explore that side of things because I think he has the right vision for it. I think he has the right eye for it.
Yeah, I agree with everything that you're saying. I think that's kind of the point that I was making, that he here now in 2024, he can walk into PlayStation, they're like, whatever you want, Xbox, whatever you want, Hollywood, whatever you want. Like, he has that pull now and the connections that you're talking about. By the way, I know I've talked to you about this privately. I'm going to say it since we're together on KFGD.
Yeah.
The fact that you went over there and you got to be in Kojima Productions and the whole thing, you talk about a goddamn bucket list item.
Oh, dude.
I may never forgive him for Metal Gear Solid 2, but damn, that was amazing that you got that opportunity.
Next time I'll hang out with him, I'll let him know. I'll be like, hey, it's fucked up what you did to Paris with MGS2. That's kind of fucked up. But yeah, if you want to talk about a bucket list item, legitimately, I talked about this on the Gamescast that people can go listen to. But when I tell you that on the way out, like, I'm looking at Roger and I'm like emotional. I'm like, oh my God, I just got to meet him. Like, that's crazy. I saw him in the flesh. But yeah, I know I'm probably coming off very like Kojima fanboyish in this whole conversation, but that's because like I get excited about this shit, man. Like, Death Stranding is a game that when I played it on Steam Deck and I tried it for the second time and it clicked for me, I was like, man, I really appreciate games that do weird shit and developers and directors that like to go weird directions. And when you have that amount of budget, like there are so many criticisms I can't have about Kojima. Maybe he needs an editor. Maybe there's a lot of things he can do that would allow a more concise vision. But all that said, that man has access and he uses that access to make weird shit, and I appreciate that.
You know what I think it is, and I can't give you the complete list right now off the top of my head, but when I think about a Mount Rushmore of important people in gaming, he's there. He has to be.
Yeah.
Like Miyamoto, obviously, but then Kojima's right there with them. And, obviously there's going to be other people that you could list as well, but that's the thing. And he's still doing it. He's not retiring or slowing down. He's continuing to take risk and to innovate and to try new things, in entertainment. You have to applaud it.
Yeah. I want to bring in a super chat related to the story from Apple's Dude 123, who says, is OD going to be after Fizzent now? It seems kind of crazy not to mention the project with tons of Hollywood connections in the press release. We didn't read the full article here. We just read the Wario 64 write-ups. I don't know if he talks about OD or not in the actual Variety article. What I will say is that OD has to come out before Fizzent. Fizzent was talked about as such a distant thing. That feels like a PlayStation 6 project. And OD, I think that strikes me as is going to come out this console generation for Xbox.
You think? I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I think this is the next one.
Really?
Yeah, I do.
When do you think the next console generation is for Xbox?
2026. That's just
okay.
Me,
then I'm with you.
Yeah. But part of what you're saying with that one is because, again, he's trying something different. This is a quote unquote cloud enabled game. So how is that going to work? All that. It may not, you know what? I don't even think it's fair to call that a console generation, because the fact that they're doing this cloud stuff, I don't think it's necessarily tied down to a console. Obviously, this is going to be on multiple platforms because you're going to be streaming the assets in. So, yeah, but I think 2027 seems about right for that, because Death Stranding 2, if that's next year, knock on wood, you would imagine that's probably a couple years out past that.
There's some people in chat that also mentioned that he does talk about it in the article. I'm just going to open up the article. Oh God, why is Variety designed like this? As I'm talking, I'll find the article, and I'll check there to see what he says about OD. Because I would imagine that he probably talks a little bit about it there. And yeah, like you talk about it coming out a few years after Death Stranding 2. That's how I would see it too. Fizzent feels like just a sparkle in Kojima's eyes right now. It doesn't feel like a real thing to me yet. outside of just the ideation phase, but we will see.